Hi, this is our CS4500 Software Development Final Presentation for Team 33. I'm Douglas Schonholtz.
I'm Hoang Pham.
I'm Michael Lucas.
I'm Samuel Siegmeister.
I'm Yidan Chang.
I'm Zhengyang Zhou.
Our purpose is to build a social media network for cinephiles, which users could access to a database of movies where they can read details and review or rate, which will be searchable by keywords. The system will also have a social media element where users can search users by keywords and follow each other. The site itself will also make recommendations to its users based on critic ratings of other sites, their favorites, the genre of favorite movies, site ratings, and timeline of the movies with various algorithms. Now we will introduce our system functionalities.
When you first go to the site, you'll be taken to a login page, which will ask you for an email and a password. When you give the email and the password, it will check the database to see if the email matches a user in the database, and then it will use bcrypt's compare function to compare the password that you gave it to the hashed password for that user. If those two things match, then you'll be logged in, otherwise it'll error out. In order to create an account, you have to go to the sign up page, which will ask you for a first name, a last name, an email, a password, and it'll ask you to confirm your password. All of that information will be sent to the back end, where it'll be stored in a user object. For the password, bcrypt will be used to create a hash of the password using 10 salt rounds, which will eventually be able to be compared on the login page.
Typing on the search bar can show real-time results of, the first one is list of users with follow and unfollow status. The second one is the list of movies. The movie is clickable, and by clicking it goes to the movie detail page. And the third one is the list of user groups at the bottom. The group can be clicked on to go to the group page, and a button to create a group from the bottom of the list.
When you search for a user, there will be a button next to that user that will say follow by default. When you click on that button, it will send an API request to the back end. You can then click on the button to unfollow the user because it will change to say unfollow instead of follow. The unfollow action will do the same thing, just in reverse. The following and unfollowing functionality lays the groundwork for future tasks that could be implemented, such as user feed being shown based on who you're following and unfollowing, and other things such as messaging.
This is Zhengyang. I'm going to talk about commenting and view comment. So once a user click into a movie detail page, they will be able to add their comment for this movie at the bottom of the movie detail page. And then at the comment section, they will be able to see other users' comment for this movie. And also one user can comment multiple times for this movie.
Each user gets custom recommendations based off of genres and timelines of movies they have favorited, while receiving a set of default recommendations if they haven't found any movies worthy of favoriting quite yet.
So we also add user groups. These can be created from the search dialog. There's a button down at the very bottom of the list of user groups. They can be searched for as well, so if you type in the name of a user group, it'll pop up a list of user groups with a similar name. And you can also add and remove members from the group once you go to the group page.
We believe that the previously mentioned features shows that we have accomplished largely everything that was expected of us according to the original expectations. The one thing we have really fell short on in hindsight was the movie prodding system, or recommending movies to a friend. By beginning to implement a social media aspect of this system, we are confident that this too will be able to be implemented without major code rework, nor refactoring, because the code was designed with it in mind, even if we haven't had the chance to quite implement it yet.
So this is Zhengyang. I'm going to talk about our teamwork distribution and teamwork. So our team are following an agile style. We're having a sprint meeting every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Which during the sprint meeting, each of our team members pick some task from our Jira backlog. And after the sprint meeting, we use Slack to communicate or do a Scrum meeting every day. We post problems and tips that we found during our development on Slack. If some people post some questions and asking for help when they get stuck during their development, our team members with knowledge will help them out in Slack channel or set up a private meeting or something. Our team uses Jira board for the software development cycle. Every 2 weeks, we create a new sprint during our sprint meeting, and we add in tasks from backlog to the active sprint. During our development, we use smart commits to update the Jira ticket in order to have a better progress status for the current sprint. We are also able to track where each members are during the development at Jira board. Once we finish sprint review with the TA, we will close the current sprint and start the new one.
We're using Jenkins for our continuous integration. We're using Node 8.5 to build our Node.js applications and NPM dependencies. There are field difficulties and tips for all the teams and for our own improvement. The first one is building both server and UI in one Jenkins instance will consume all of your memory and storage. The second one is using their client and their server would definitely help in the future. And third one is building and running with Yarn is so much faster than NPM, as Yarn is faster with connecting dependencies.
We have a SonarQube server set up on a personal AWS server. We get our coverage reports from Istanbul and NYC, which are packages made to work with Node.js. They export their reports into an LCOV format, and we upload those into SonarQube using Sonar Scanner.
This is the front-end handoff project. The easy tasks are simple implementation of React components. There are multiple tutorials online, and a new developer can learn from it pretty fast. The second one is using Axios HTTP request. There's a straightforward HTTP request. There are many examples on their documentations and GitHub. And the third one is using Material UI components and just simply import the components and read documentations for better UI and styling. This is hard task for front-end handoff. The hard tasks are Redux integration. You need to understand UI state management and the architecture of the applications and the syntax of Redux. The second one is Redux Thunk. You need to understand the middleware to handle Redux actions through network.
The backend should be relatively ready for handoff. There are some areas which could become problematic that we're aware of. The main issue that we have is documentation. The backend is largely undocumented currently. There are comments left in some places to explain what's going on, but there's no generated documentation using something like JSDoc. The database models and schemas are also slightly problematic, as any changes to them are going to require a database migration, which at this point could be relatively problematic. And then testing is the last issue, which is not at 100% code coverage currently, so we can't be assured that everything is working as intended. On the other hand, everything as far as API routes and formatting and organization of the backend code should be relatively ready for handoff.
So this is the difference between deployment and development. For development, we don't need to add a full backend URL to each React request by doing proxying the React request through the backend URL. The difference is that for deployment, we have to actually put the backend URL into the request, and we have to enable cross-origin exception on the backend side.
Our deployment and Jenkins process was extremely difficult for different reasons. Because of this, we found that we had to make Jenkins and deployment adjustment several sprints down the line to keep it working. Ultimately, we would like to switch to a different continuous integration technology to help solve these issues. For teamwork, at the beginning, we just worked as individuals because everyone has own better areas. However, during the process, we found this problem, and after communication, we balanced everyone's ability and made sure everyone was on the same page to work as a team in the end.